Hey, what is up, Traeger Nation? I hope you're having a great day today. My name is Dennis Prescott. I'm a chef. I'm based on the east coast of Canada in a small little town called Moncton, New Brunswick. It's a city, I guess. I'm coming to you live tonight. I'm excited that you're here. I'm excited to be with you. We are cooking some incredible food this evening. A few things before we get started and right off of the top. Next Thursday, you have plans. Traeger Live is coming next Thursday. It's called Traeger 101 Live. Incredible people, Chad Ward, Amanda Haas, they are hosting. This is not a cooking class. It's all about getting to know your grill, the ins and outs of how to best use your grill, best practices as far as cleaning your grill, maintenance, all of that good stuff. Make sure you plan for next Thursday. You're absolutely gonna love it. You're gonna be a better cook at home for it. Your grill is gonna last a lot longer, of course, and you know Traegers last a lifetime anyway, but you wanted to keep it in tip-top shape so it's operating perfectly every single day. So make sure next Thursday to tune in. Before we even get started, just so you know, all of these recipes that we're cooking tonight are on the Traeger app right now, as are oodles and oodles of incredible recipes, everything from starters to mains to salads to cocktails to desserts. You can find it on the app. If you don't have the app already on your phone, what are you waiting for? Go download the app. You might even find some recipes by me on there as well. So my name is Dennis Prescott. I am a chef from the east coast of Canada. I'm the host of Restaurants on the Edge on Netflix, cookbook author, and most importantly, I am a Traeger fan. I am such a big fan of Traeger grills. I've had the good fortune of working alongside Traeger for a number of years and using them every single day in my food. As you know, if you use a Traeger, it just makes your food better. It's so much fun. It's built just to invite community into your backyard and to create these delicious meals. So thanks to Traeger for having me this week. Thanks to you guys for checking out this week's Traeger Kitchen Live. Let's get started. So we are doing Italian themed food this week, which I love. I'm such a big fan of Italian food. Love going to Italy. Hopefully can get back there one day soon. We're going to start out with a cocktail tonight. If you go to Italy, specifically if you go to Venice, but really all of Italy, but it comes from Venice, you're gonna know that there's something called a spritz or an Aperol spritz. It is from Italy. It literally costs less than water when you are in Venice, which is just unbelievable. We're gonna do a little bit of a seasonal twist on this. And what I love about, really everything that we're making tonight, it's all about seasonality. It's all about making sure that we are using vegetables when they're at their best. And also, and using what's in our own backyard. So this cocktail, of course, this is a spin. This isn't a classic. A classic, of course, would just have Aperol, would maybe have a little bit of that simple syrup that you're going to use, something like that. Very, very, very simple. We're going to mix it up a little bit. We're going to use something called blood oranges. Blood orange season is the winter time. They look incredible. So I've just grilled these blood oranges off. We're going to get a little bit of juice out of one of these guys. And as you can tell already, I'm excited. I'm talking a lot. I'm excited for a cocktail. So we're going to juice one blood orange. This is per cocktail, of course. The best thing about using cocktails, and specifically using your Traeger for cocktails, is you can just completely, there we go, we're all juiced. You can infuse smoke into everything that you put in that cocktail. So what we did tonight, we have a few elements that we've grilled and smoked. We have our grilled citrus here. This is what we juiced. We have our smoked, beautiful little slices of blood orange. So that's going to act as a garnish. It's going to flavor as well, but it's going to act as a garnish. And then we have our smoked simple syrup. So we did this all in advance. If you want to make a smoked simple syrup, basic simple syrup recipe is 1-to-1 salt, or sugar, excuse me, definitely not salt, 1-to-1. Mix that together, put that on the grill. Now you can mix that up any way you like. I love to drop in some fresh rosemary. If you have cranberries, that's delicious. You have some citrus, that's great in there too. Maybe some nutmeg, some cinnamon. You can really mix it up, but definitely if you put that on the grill, you let that just slowly smoke 165 degrees for about an hour. Let that just infuse with that smoky flavor. And then this is gonna last in your fridge. It's probably not gonna last a couple weeks because you're definitely gonna use it, but in a in a sealable container like a jam jar, it is going to technically last for that long. So we are going to make this little cocktail here. If you have questions, please feel free to ask them. I am happy to answer any questions, and I'll tell you if I don't know the answer, but I will definitely do my best to make an answer up that is pretty good. So we're gonna go in, we've got a cocktail shaker here full of ice. We're gonna go in with this blood orange. It's about 1 part, roughly. We're gonna go in here with 1 part of our simple syrup. And we're gonna go in with 2 parts of our Aperol. Aperol is a delicious little chestnut that I highly recommend that you use more. It's very Italian, used in a lot of different cocktails. Shaker on, give that a nice shake. And then we're pouring this over ice, so we just really want that to be infused, chilled a little bit. And then we're gonna go in to this glass right here. Beautiful. Now, this is kind of acting like the start of our cocktail. The fun part is when you get to add this. It's Prosecco. So if you never had Prosecco before, I highly recommend it, because you get to open it. It's very fun to open it. And then you just want to go over with this beautiful Prosecco. Being generous, the cook gets to be generous for themselves. We're going to drop in one of these beautiful little blood oranges. Nice hit of rosemary. So you're going to get that flavor on the nose. And look how incredible that is. That is one of the most refreshing. It is one of the most absolutely refreshing cocktails that you can make. Like I said, we're doing this right now. Blood oranges, we've got the rosemary in the simple syrup, a little bit of blood orange in that as well. So it really tastes, I know we're into spring now, of course, but really tastes, you know, like those cooler months. Summertime, if you want to mix this up, I highly recommend mixing that up with more summery flavors. Of course, mix up the citrus, beautiful lemon, orange, tangerine even in there, anything like that. Make it your own. That is the fun thing about cooking, is you get to really make it exactly what you want and think outside the box. You know, everything that we're doing tonight, for the most part, is not a traditional barbecue dish. And I love that. I love barbecue. I love ribs so much. I love brisket so much. I would eat it literally any day. But I also love that you can use the Traeger to cook everything down to your mom's chocolate chip cookie recipe. And that's why I love infusing things like this. That little bit of smoke, that little bit of flavor, is just really going to take your recipes at home up to the next level. So definitely, I highly recommend make cocktails. The nice thing is you make a cocktail too, there's always going to be more for later. So we're going to move this out of the way. And we've got a question, I think.
Do you use applewood or cherry to smoke this in the syrup?
Applewood or cherry? I would recommend, I mean, you can use either. I love apple. Apple, we've got a little bag of it hanging out right here actually on my counter. I love apple. For me, it's kind of those, you know, the little bit more gentle. I love cherry. I use cherry often. I usually, for me, again, a personal preference, for me, I use cherry more for beef, for something like that, a little heartier. But I love the apple for sure. I also love that it just infuses it with a little bit more of that delicious kind of sweetness that comes from the apple as well. We're just going to move this very quickly over here. And then it's salad time. So I love salad. I think salad's incredible. One of my favorite things about salad, though, is having a warm salad. What I mean by that is having a mixture of hot and cold in your salad. I think that is honestly one of the best ways. If you're not a salad fan, if you grew up eating, you know, cherry tomatoes with iceberg lettuce and cucumbers, and that was kind of your salad thing. This is not that thing. There's nothing wrong with that, of course. It's still great. But that's what I grew up eating for salad. And then I realized that the warm salads were a thing, and you could add beautiful warm elements and cold elements and create that balance. And what I think the best food in the world is it's texturally balanced. So you have some crunchy and you have some soft. And then it's from a flavor perspective, it's also balanced. You've got some sweet, you've got some spicy, you've got some savory, some umami. You get all of those different flavors, and you hear those words, and it sounds very chefy. But at the end of the day, what it is it's just balancing that out from a palate side of things. So we're just going to grab our sheet pans here. So what we're doing tonight is we're doing something called a Panzanella salad. If you've never heard of a Panzanella salad, again, staying in Italy, but just moving down a little bit. So we're not in Venice anymore. Now we're in Tuscany. So this is a traditional, at least originally, traditional Tuscan-style salad, and we're mixing it up. So there's not very much traditional about this particular one, but we're going off of that original salad. And the reason that that exists initially is that they would make bread, and it would be day-old bread. It would go stale. And then this is a way of both reviving the bread and giving it new life, and also making sure that we're cutting down on waste. And I think we would all say that we don't like wasting food. We want to be a more sustainable, more waste-free kitchen in our homes. So this is a great way of doing that, especially, I know so many people over the last year are making sourdough bread from scratch for the first time. They're making bread, and you might make too much and you don't know exactly what to do with it. This is a great option. So what we're going to do, I've just got some ciabatta bread. You can actually see probably in there that it's a little bit old, a little dry, a little stale at this point. So we're going to hit that with a good bit of olive oil on here. Don't be shy. Be very Italian with your olive oil. A little bit of salt necessary. And we're going to take this rosemary and we're just going to break this over the top. That's going to help to perfume these croutons. It's also going to be really crunchy and super delicious when it cooks down. So we've got this on here. And one last one here. I love a lot of rosemary. Rosemary, one of my best absolute friends in this world. Hit that with a little bit of cracked pepper. And give this a mix. And this is going to go on our Traeger grill, 25 to 30 minutes. I usually do this somewhere about 350 degrees. You could do it 400 degrees, anywhere in between that. You really just want to keep an eye on it, of course. You want it to be golden brown on all sides. So once it's golden brown on all sides, like I say, about 25 to 30 minutes, you'll be good to go. And these will last for the entire day, which is really great. So we're going to pop that on the grill. And I should mention, we're inside tonight. I didn't mention yet why, but it might make sense when you can see how it's a little bit dark in here today. Like I said, I'm in Moncton, New Brunswick on the east coast of Canada. It is dark outside right now because we are still dealing with those end of winter, start of spring, cold, rainy days. So we're inside. Everything's being cooked on a Traeger grill. Everything is being cooked on an Ironwood 885. That is my favorite grill that I use literally every single day. But that's why you're not actually seeing a grill in the background. So I hope you'll forgive that. Next time that I'm back, you'll definitely see the grill, just like you did last season and last year, of course. But I just felt like maybe I should explain why we're actually inside in a kitchen. I would, of course, prefer to be outside as well. So the second element for this salad in terms of the hot side of things is we have got some pretty seasonal in terms of cold weather months. We've got some butternut squash and we've got some golden beets. Golden beets are very, very delicious. I love beets of all kinds. The reason why I'm using golden beets, one of two reasons actually. Flavor perspective, of course, first, but also golden beets don't run in the same way that red beets do. So if you've ever cooked red beets, you've peeled them, your hands are completely red after. That is not going to happen with these, but you're still going to get that beet flavor in this beautiful salad. So we're using both of these. I've just added some rosemary again here as well. I'm really just continuing the flavor story, the flavor journey of rosemary throughout everything. So that's why this is going on here. A little bit of olive oil. And again, salt and pepper on these. These are gonna go on the grill as well. Now this is gonna last a little bit longer. We're of course gonna flip this halfway through until they're golden brown and cook through, fork tender on all sides. Probably more like 40, 45 minutes, something like that. Depends on your grill, depends on how thick that you cut your vegetables, of course, as well. You wanna be pretty, reasonably thick because you want a good slice, but definitely half an inch, 3/4 of an inch at the most, so that it cooks through properly. So we're gonna go in here with this beautiful cracked pepper. And that can go on at the exact same time as your croutons. Like I said, just keep an eye on it until they're all golden brown cooked through. Perfect. So let's take this on the grill. And I think we have a question.
Do you have any cocktail-inspired brines?
Cocktail-inspired brines. So I love, if you're a Traeger fan, you'll absolutely know that obviously you want to brine everything, poultry. I shouldn't say you absolutely know, but probably a lot of us know that, poultry and pork, you want to brine it. You want it to take in that beautiful flavor soak prior to cooking to ensure, look, you're spending your hard-earned money and time preparing that. You don't want it overcooked and you don't want it to be dry. And you want it to be super tender and juicy. So brining will do that. Highly recommended. If you've not done it before, it will literally be such a game changer for you in your kitchen if you start brining. I'm a huge fan of bourbon. I love bourbon neat. I love bourbon as a nice little drink in the evening, but I also love to use bourbon often in brines. I think it's delicious, specifically bourbon and maple. I'm from the maple kind of part of the world where we grow, a good majority of the world's output of maple here in New Brunswick. So, using maple as a sweetener and as a balance, I use often, something like that. And that's kind of really, it's, that bourbon, that maple, a little bit of citrus in there as well. That to me is a beautiful cocktail on its own. As I love the old fashions, I love Boulevardiers, I love everything kind of simple, classic, something like 1920s cocktail. So I use bourbon all the time. Whiskey as well is very beautiful. I've used beer, I've used basically whatever I have available, but I love to infuse those brines. Yes, you can do it with just some salt and sugar and make it very easy. It's really fun to mix it up though and do something unique. So, I went ahead, I knew you guys were coming over tonight for dinner. I appreciate you coming over for dinner. So I went ahead and got some things ready in advance, like I say. So we've got our beautiful croutons here. If you can see this, you see how these rosemary, you can actually probably even hear that potentially. They are so crispy, so crunchy, so delicious, really beautiful in our croutons. So we're gonna set those aside. We're gonna make a little bit of a vinaigrette here.
Can you find the golden beets at any grocery store?
The question is, can you find golden beets at any grocery store? So the reality is, I wish, and I went to about 4 to find them. In the summertime, of course, in the east coast of Canada, we have a very, very short growing season, just because it's winter here, of course. So we've got our very, very short growing season. I wish that I could have access to that all year round. You can't necessarily. But, I highly recommend if you have access to a beautiful farmer's market where you live, go to the farmer's market, see what they have available. They're going to have options there. If you can't find golden beets, definitely it doesn't mean that this recipe is, that you can't make it. I think that that's the fun thing about recipes. Mix them up, make them your own, and make them unique and uniquely yours. If you have access to just beets, red beets, that's great. If you're not a fan of beets, leave them out. If you want to add more squash, different kind of squash, acorn squash, something like that, mix it up. The idea of this recipe though is really, it's a tomato and bread salad. That's what it is. We're just making it a little bit more seasonal, a little bit more friendly to this time of the year. That's the only thing we're doing differently. But it's really, as far as Italians are concerned, and I don't want to speak on behalf of Italians, of course, but in my experience, it's a tomato and bread salad. So really, anything else on top of that is gravy and extra. So we're just going to break down these tomatoes. I like them really, really thick. And what's going to happen is the juice from these tomatoes are also going to act as a beautiful little sauce along with our vinaigrette. So we're going to break these tomatoes down. If you have access, you know, of course, dependent upon the time of year, you might have access to a lot of heirloom tomatoes, unique tomatoes, small little cherry tomatoes. The best thing you can do is mix it up. It's the same thing as if you're making a French onion soup. You want to use Spanish onions, you want to use leeks, you want to use red onions, you want to use green onions. You want to mix it up as much as possible. The more options you have, the more flavor that you're infusing into that dish. So mix it up as much as you can. I'm basically using this, I'm doing the exact opposite right now because this is what we have access to here. If you live in a warmer part of the world where you have access to more seasonal tomatoes right now, first off, I'm very jealous of you because I wish I had access to that beautiful sunshine that you have and potentially palm trees. And also, more importantly, the delicious food that you have. So I say that to say, you know, mix this up, make it your own. So we're going in here, we've got about 4 big tomatoes. You can size this up, you know, this recipe's on the app. You can download it exactly and go and make it exactly the way that I am tonight. If you are making, you know, this recipe for more people, make it for more people. If you're making it for less people, that's super okay. It's a really customizable recipe. The only thing that's kind of a little bit specific is the vinaigrette. The great thing is this is going to keep in your fridge. So you make this in advance, no worries at all. It's going to keep in your fridge, and you might want to do that and get sorted so when it becomes dinner time, you don't have to stress as much and everything is ready to go, which is great.
This one's simple syrup with an equal parts sugar and water.
Equal parts sugar and water. So equal parts sugar, sorry. Sometimes I think that you guys know what the questions are, but you're not here with me. But it feels like you're here like with me right now. I wish you were. You're not. So I'm going to repeat the questions. I apologize for that. So the question was, is the simple syrup equal parts sugar and water? Yes, it is. Equal parts sugar and water. Now, the cool thing about that is that you can take that equation, equal parts, and mix it up. So, you know, you might want to do 1 part as half of water, and then cut that half of sugar into half maple syrup, or half honey and half confectioner's sugar, or all honey and half and water. You can really mix that up, but basically you're looking for equal parts sweetness and water.
And it was 165 for how long? For smoke?
165. So the simple syrup itself, it's going to be on the grill infusing with that smoke at 165 degrees Fahrenheit for an hour. So really, we want it to be on there long enough that it's taking in all of that flavor, and you know, an hour seems to do the trick. What I love to do that as well is often I'll take advantage, and I'm sure you guys do this too, but I'll take advantage of the grill being on, and I'll smoke other things. I'll put cherries on there as well if I'm making something, you know, beautiful old-fashioned, and I want to smoke cherry in it or something like that. So, or if you want to smoke some citrus as well, so you want to do a smoked simple syrup, and you also want to have a smoked, you know, citrus option if you're a fan of whiskey sours or bourbon sours. I love bourbon sours and whiskey sours. One of my favorite cocktails. So the best thing you can do with that is take lemons, take limes, cut them in half, pop them up on top, just on a sheet pan. You could even do it directly on the grill grates. Let those smoke alongside with the simple syrup. You're basically infusing every element of that cocktail with smoke. So really just think about the elements in your favorite drink and how do you mix that up. I know people who have even done smoked ice in cocktails. So really, you can do anything. Just get creative. Think about what the element is that, you know, you really want to set apart. You want to make it unique and uniquely yours. So we're going to go in here with this beautiful vinaigrette. So I'm not going to do this very, very thick. We're not making a mayonnaise. We're just going to go in with everything and we're going to mix it around. If you had a jam jar, you could put this in a jam jar, cover it on with a jam jar lid, shake the absolute life out of it. That works too. So we're going in with some whole grain mustard. I've got some maple, very East Coast of me. We're going to go in with a shallot, some diced garlic, apple cider vinegar, grab a whisk, hit this with a bit of salt, Give that a little whisk here. And then still whisking. If you've ever made a vinaigrette, if you ever made a mayonnaise, you just want to keep it moving very slowly, very gently. We're going to add this oil in here. The reason we do that is we want it to emulsify. So we want the mustard, which helps to act as our binder and everything, to help to take this oil. And like I said, we're not doing this super thick like we're making a mayonnaise or an aioli or something like that, but we do want it to thicken up beautifully. So we're just going to go in a little bit of it at a time, about basically a cup of olive oil. Again, this recipe's on the app, so you can download it there. But what I love about these flavors is, you get that sweetness from the maple, you're gonna get that beautiful savoriness from the mustard, from the apple cider vinegar, or from the garlic. It's very, very, very delicious. This is certainly not a traditional Panzanella vinaigrette, but I love it, so that's why we're gonna make it like this. And it's also gonna play beautifully with our roasted vegetables that we're gonna add into the mix. So just whisk away. It takes a second. It's worth it. It's worth the time. You guys know, if you cook on the grill, you know that often the best things take time. That beautiful pulled pork, the beautiful brisket. You're not doing that in an hour, that's for sure, or you shouldn't be. So you want it to take the time. These little steps really just set it apart. And often, I say, people ask me what the difference is between food you eat your favorite dish at a restaurant, then you make it at home, you're like, I don't know why it doesn't taste as good. Often it's salt, often. You want to try to season at every single step of the game. You also want to taste everything. Constantly taste your food. Have little tasting spoons around. Taste your food. You want to know for sure that you're on point from a flavor perspective. And then the last thing is time. Often it's just time. Giving food the time it needs to break down, the time it needs to come together, the time it needs to rest. So, just giving a think about that is really going to up your cooking game. It's going to take you to the next level from a cooking perspective, and just intentionality in general in the kitchen is essential. So that's what we're kind of looking for. If you can see that, thickened right up beautifully, not too thick, still going to run, still going to be great. And then the last thing that we're going to do with this is we're going to hit this with a beautiful little bit of lemon, just to bring it all together. And then we're ready to build. So we have our beautiful butternut squash, and we've got our beautiful golden beets that have been cooking down. We're going to grab those over here. And just set this to the side. So really, you're just looking for this to be beautiful, golden brown, cooked down. They're going to shrink quite a bit. Specifically, the golden beets are going to shrink down. This is going to taste incredible. The hot, the texture of this with these tomatoes, incredible with those croutons. We've got a question.
Did you smoke any of the ingredients for the vinaigrette?
For the vinaigrette, I did not do that specifically for this recipe. I highly recommend that. That's an amazing idea, and a perfect idea. Smoked garlic would be delicious in this. Often I will smoke garlic and keep it in the fridge. Smoke a whole bunch of it at a time. Smoked garlic is heavenly. It's just incredible. But really, you could take basically any of these ingredients and smoke them, infuse them with flavor. Everything down to everything, like I said, down to the garlic and the lemon that I put in at the very end. So I didn't do that tonight, to be honest, but you can do that for sure. And let me know how it tastes. I would love to know if you try it, what you think. I'm going to grab a platter because we're going to plate up this beautiful salad. And we're going to grab this here and put this right here. So I'm going to go right into the tomatoes. And we've got an overhead camera, and I know you can't see all of this probably right now, so I apologize for that. We're going to go right in there and give this a nice mix. You see how incredibly juicy, lovely these are. Tomatoes like this are just heavenly. Give that a nice little taste, like I said. It's delicious. It's you can sweetness, the mustard in there, but it's not too mustardy. It's very balanced. Apple cider vinegar, the lemon brings it all together. Garlicky without being too garlicky. That is a delicious vinaigrette. I highly recommend that you make that. So we are going to take this little sheet pan. What we're going to do is mix this all right into here. We've got the crispy rosemary, got these beautiful golden beets. And of course the butternut squash. And the other thing about the butternut squash is it's going to add some sweetness to this as well, just as a byproduct of the fact that it's a sweet vegetable. So we're going to give this a little mix, just gently. We don't want the butternut squash itself is, you know, it's crispy, but we don't want it to all break apart. And we are going to gently go out onto this beautiful platter. And then what we're going to do, now if you were making this in advance, you definitely won't want to put the bread inside here. The bread itself is, you know, we've given it new life. We've added olive oil, we've added our salt, our pepper, of course that rosemary. We brought it back to life. What you don't want to do is you don't want it to sit, because of course what happens to bread when it sits in liquid? It gets soggy. We don't want to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm not even going to mix this into here, because I want to make sure that I decide how much bread is in this, and I want everyone to have it in every little bite. And I don't want it to end up on the bottom of this pan. So if somebody goes back for seconds and they get bread that's a little soggy, that might be your game. You might love that. Not a big fan of soggy bread myself. No judgment if you are, because everyone is into something. But what I'm going to do is I know that I'm going to have this beautiful leftover little bit of juice from the vinaigrette, the juice from the tomatoes right here. So we're going to go into this with a little bit of our croutons. We're not going to use all of them. Like this. And we're just going to give this a nice toss. So that's going to ensure both. That one's going to be on, one fell on the floor, that's going to be for the dog later. So we're going to make sure that all of these breads, these croutons, are kissed with this beautiful flavor. And we are just going to divvy these out every which way. Make sure everyone gets a bite. And I'm telling you, if you make this salad, if you have somebody in your life who's not a salad fan, that's probably going to change. They're going to love this salad. We're going to go on here with the rest of this beautiful vinaigrette. And then the last thing that we're going to do, just for a little bit of texture and a little bit of this beautiful softness of this goat's cheese. So goat cheese, incredible. It marries perfectly. Specifically with butternut squash, it's absolutely delicious. You know, if you don't love goat cheese, I know not everybody does, you could do something like ricotta. You could even do burrata if you were feeling a little bit fancy. Might be a little bit harder to find, but it is delicious. But you know, the creaminess of this is going to play beautifully, both with the tomatoes and then the roasted vegetables that we have in here. Get your hands a little white from that. And then the last thing we're going to do, you know, to continue the story, finish the story, I should say, we've got the butternut squash. We're going to go on with some pumpkin seeds. I love using pumpkin seeds. We want to make sure that we're using every bit of the vegetable, right down to the seed itself if it's edible. And I love that. It also plays into the flavor story of what's going on here. It's going to add a crunch factor as well. So I talked before about you want that crunchiness and that softness in every single recipe. This is going to help to do that. So we're going to hit the top of this, just a little bit of these pumpkin seeds. They also look beautiful. And they last forever, which is the nice thing. Of course, you can bulk buy these. They'll keep in your cupboard. They're cheap as chips, so not going to cost you a fortune. And that is an absolutely delicious salad. Okay. Feta would work great. So the question was, would feta work? I'm a huge feta fan. The one thing you want to watch, of course, is feta is a little bit salty, which I love, but you just want to make sure that, you know, the folks who you're feeding, that you balance those flavors as far as the salt that you're actually putting in the vinaigrette and across the board goes. Like I showed you there, taste everything along the way. So if you're using feta, just make sure that you're a good taster and you taste your food as you go. So we're gonna move these over here. Do we have any more questions? We're good to, are we good for the main course? Wow, so the question is, who are some of my chef inspirations? That is both an incredible question and a challenging question to answer. You know, we all, initially when I started cooking, I was living in Nashville, Tennessee. Shout out to anybody online in Nashville or in Tennessee or that part of the world. I have a place in my heart for you, and I miss it all the time. When I was living in Nashville, I fell in love with the barbecue scene there. I also happened upon a gentleman when I borrowed some cookbooks at the library named Jamie Oliver. I'd never heard of him, never cooked a thing in my life. This is about 15 years ago. And borrowed some books and started cooking through them, and I absolutely fell in love with the idea of cooking. So, you know, Jamie has been great. I'm a big fan of his, big fan of Aaron Franklin, of course, as most of us are, a big fan of Anthony Bourdain. You know, it's a lot of my friends, Chef Arthur Potts Dawson is great in the sustainability space, and Justin Van Horn. You know, really, it's just, I love connecting with people who love food and who love feeding people, and who want everybody to have a great time and create a beautiful meal at the table, and that's what I'm all about, really. So we're gonna make one of my favorite things, pasta. I love pasta, I've always loved pasta. I think that pasta is probably the happiest food in the world. I think that it picks you up on a bad day, and I think that it makes your day better on a great day. And this is a dish that we are making tonight. It's one of my favorites. We are making braised beef pappardelle. Oh my gosh, is this good. You will absolutely love this. So this takes time. So full transparency, this is not a Tuesday night cook. I mean, if it is, you're eating at midnight or you have way more ambition than I do. This is a weekend cook. This is something you're gonna cook Saturday, Sunday probably, because it takes a lot of time, but it's worth it. And I'm not saying that to put you off the recipe. I'm saying just pick the right time. So what we're doing, what we've got going on right here, and we're gonna bring this back up to a simmer, is we have a pot because of this time, and you know, we've only got so much time throughout our beautiful hour that we're spending together this evening. We have to cook our sauce down. So in this saucepan, we have our beautiful kind of marriage of 3 vegetables: onions, celery, and carrots, and they've been cooking down. They cooked down for quite a bit. We added our spices. We've got some garlic, we've got oregano, we've got lemon zest, all of that. We've got rosemary, we've got sage. It's all cooking down in this, and then I added wine. So we're basically I've been slowly reducing this over the course of our time here, and a little bit before that. Basically, we want our wine to reduce to the point where, you know, it's still there, but we've cooked out all the alcohol, and we're ready to move on to the next step. The thing that you need to do before this, however, is break down your beef. So we are doing, like I said, we're doing a braised beef dish. We need beef. So really, you know, the recipe itself on the app, if you go online and you look on the app, it's gonna call for chuck roast. I love chuck roast for a few reasons. I love chuck roast because it is affordable and it's easy to access. So, you know, it doesn't matter where you're from, you probably can find a chuck roast, and it's not gonna, you know, it's not gonna break the bank to pick that up. If you want to celebrate a little more and you want to mix that up, you can certainly do that and use a different cut of meat. Absolutely. You know, everything from, I love short ribs in this recipe. You could get really fancy and go, you know, the Wagyu way. What I would recommend though is if you go to Snake River Farms. If you've never used Snake River Farms, they are an incredible company who offers the highest quality beef that you can get, and have a ton of options over there. So go over to Snake River Farms, go to their website, see what you have available, you know, in your area. and take a look, you know, and I would say mix this up. Like I said, the reason why I love to use chuck roast mostly is just because they're affordable, they're economical, and they're really easy to access. Specifically for me and my part of the world in the east coast of Canada, and probably where you are too. So you know, you want to keep that cost down. The big thing you want to make sure with this, whatever the cut of meat is that you use, is it needs to be one of those cuts, those roasts that take time. Time to break down, time in the braising process, time to fall apart. Because we want this beef to literally fall apart, be tender as all get out, and literally change your absolute life. So we're gonna use this beef, we're gonna cut it down, we're gonna fill up this little water here, because of course water boils fast sometimes when you want it to go slow, and slow sometimes when you want it to go fast. So we're gonna boil this water. Again, now, basically what we're gonna do is break this down into larger chunks, and then we're gonna sear it off. So what you're looking for on here, there's quite a bit of fat on this roast itself as well. Don't get rid of that. There's a million ways to use that fat. That is delicious and great. So we're looking for chunks that are basically like this. We want that to go in that pot. We want it to have the time that it needs to really break down beautifully. So we're basically, that's like I said, we're looking for something that's a good 1.5 inches. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this, so we'll put this off to the side, and we're gonna heat this beautiful pot. So with the pot that we've got going here with this sauce, what I did is I took my beef, excuse me washing my hands very quick. Hand washing is essential, especially in 2021. So what you want to do is, we've got this beautiful Dutch oven. So the Dutch oven itself, that we're going to heat with olive oil and just olive oil. And then we're going to take our beautiful beef, we're going to season that up nicely with salt, and we are going to sear it all off and brown it on all sides. What you're going to be left with is something that looks like this. So you can see how this beautifully browned, beautifully seared, certainly not cooked through in any way. What we want to do that for two reasons. We want to brown this beef off because it's going to add a beautiful flavor to the sauce as far as the beef is concerned, and a textural, beautiful textural quality to the actual beef. But what it also does is it creates fond. Fond is if you've ever cooked something and you develop all of these beautiful little bits on the bottom of a pan, on the bottom of a saucepan or a stock pot or something like that, that is literal gold. It's flavor gold. So you want that to work its way into the sauce. We're not talking about burnt, of course. You don't want it black, even just to sit there, but we want it to create that beautiful fond. So what I did is I took that beef, I seared it all off, and then from there I added my vegetables. That fond is naturally just kind of work its way into these vegetables that are cooking down on here. So that is going to be kind of the unsung hero at the start of our dish. It's going to work its way into the sauce just naturally, which I absolutely love, because you know it like I said, it's not a spice, it's not anything like that, but it's liquid gold. So you absolutely want to take the time to do that. It is going to add probably about a 15-minute time to the start of this recipe. That's okay. You've got 15 minutes. You're doing this on Saturday. You're not doing it on Tuesday night. So once we get to here, basically, our liquid is almost gone. We are going to go in with some beautiful flavors. And we've got a lot of ingredients tonight, folks. So forgive that. Actually, don't forgive that, because it makes it delicious. So we're going to go in here. We've got our tomatoes. You can use any tomatoes that you'd like. Really, we just want some chopped tomatoes. I love San Marzano tomatoes, playing really into the Italian story. If you have access to those, if you don't, it's no worries. We're going to go in with this beautiful beef. So we're going to add the beef back to this pot here. So the question is, would this recipe work with pork or chicken? Yes, it would. Yes, it would change your cooking time. So specifically with chicken, just make sure that, it's going to take a lot less time. Chicken doesn't take hardly any time to break down. Pork is going to take quite a bit of time. Mix it up for sure. There's a lot of, slow braised style Italian recipes that incorporate both chicken and pork. So feel free. If you're not a beef eater, there's a lot of options out there for you. Lamb would also be beautiful in here if you're a lamb fan. Of course, it's Easter time and this time of the holiday season. So a lot of folks eat lamb this time of year. So definitely that's an option too if you're making this recipe specifically. Now, a little bit of beef stock in here. Again, playing with that flavor. Beef stock adds an incredible richness to this sauce. So what we're gonna do is we are essentially gonna bring this to a boil, and then that is gonna go on our grill. It's gonna go on our grill for at least 3 to 3.5 hours, potentially 4 hours. You just need it to go on there long enough so that the beef completely breaks down with 2 forks, which I'm going to show you in a minute. But that is going to change. It depends. There's a lot of factors that come into play. It depends on how thick that you make your beef. You should want to watch it, really. And if you take a fork, if you take a piece out and it's fork tender and you can completely break it down, you're good to go and good to move on to the next step. Uncovered on the grill, like I said, minimum probably 3.5 hours. You want to go from there. And you want it to be, we're not doing low and slow. We're not doing 225 degrees. But about 325 degrees or so, because you definitely don't want to fast cook this. You don't want it to be, simmering the whole time. You want it to take the time to infuse both with the smoke itself, and you also want it to have the time to break down. So about 325 degrees. So we're going to pop this off here. And my little induction burner is shouting at me. So this is what you're going to be left with. So this is the one that was on the grill. And you see how that's beautifully reduced. Look how thick that is. My goodness, that's delicious. So, I can't tell. I wish that through these beautiful cameras that you guys had the option of smelling what I smell right now. Because, oh my goodness, this smells incredible. You smell the wine, you smell the herbs, you get the beef. Whew, it's delicious. We got a question. So the question is, they want to make sure I'm not grilling indoors. If I was grilling indoors, I'd have the proper hood vents to do so. I do not have that. No, I'm definitely not grilling indoors. Thank you for noticing. I am on the east coast of Canada. It is very dark and very rainy outside right now. So we're in here. Everything's been cooked on the grill in advance. We're just doing a little bit of David Blaine style magician work tonight. So that we can cook with you and show you some great recipes. Thankfully, next time that I'm back, it will at least be summer. So hopefully at that point, we'll be back outside, of course, and spending time. Right now, it's a very beautiful part of the world. It's a little cold. So you see that? Oh my gosh. See that? This is just entirely falling apart. Perfect. That's all we want. So this is the one little laborsome, I think that's the right word, maybe not. Maybe some English teachers on the video can tell me. You just want to break this apart. It just takes a little while. You're going to break it apart. We've got our pasta water going. So what we're going to do, we're going to drop that pasta in. This is Pappardelle noodles. So this is dried Pappardelle noodles. I love them because they're thick. And what's going to happen is that sauce is going to coat beautifully on these. These are going to be in our pot al dente. You definitely want to make sure your pasta is al dente. Don't overcook pasta. Nobody likes that. So read the box. Get to know your pasta that you use for sure. Highly recommend it. This is going to take about 7 minutes. So we're going to go into the pot. We've got a heavily seasoned pot of water over here just on a stove top because I don't have 2 induction burners. I hope you forgive that. You're not going to see that. But I'm going to pull it back in a sec. So 7 minutes of these are going to go in. And that's going to give us the time to both answer some questions, because I am sure that you folks have some questions, and also break this beef down. So what you want to do basically, like I said, you've got this extra sauce in here. This makes a lot. So I recommend a few things. If you can batch cook, Best case scenario, you know, if you want to freeze something, you want to cook for, you know, you're cooking basically for multiple meals, especially sauces, I highly recommend that. This sauce itself, this sauce recipe, feeds a crew. So, you know, but it's going to freeze beautifully. It's going to keep for a long time. Really, really nice way to have dinner ready. You know, if you want it, like I said, it's a Saturday cook, but if you want to have that dinner ready on a Tuesday night and you want it to be delicious, this is a great way to do that. Cook it in advance, cook extra, double up the recipe. That's going to work too. Lots of really, really great options there. So we're just going to break this down. Just takes some time. And if you've ever made pulled pork, which I'm highly, I'm guarantee that most of us probably, if you own a Traeger, it's one of the first things that you cooked. It's one of the first things I cooked actually on my Traeger after moving home to the east coast of Canada from Nashville. And I wanted to recreate those beautiful flavors that I had fallen in love with. I learned how to make pulled pork, and it absolutely blew my mind. So, you know, if you've ever done that, really, we're just doing the exact same thing, just breaking it down. Obviously, super easy, nothing to it. So, but like I said, it just takes a little bit of extra time. And what we're going to do is we're going to sauce this out, because I'm not going to do the entire pot, because I'm going to do exactly what I just said. I'm going to save a little bit for later, because that is the best thing I can do. Yes, I think we have a question.
Do you keep the lid on the pot when you have the beef on the grill?
No. So the question is, do I keep the lid on the pot when it's on the grill? I definitely don't. You know, I want it to take in all of that flavor from the smoke. It doesn't need that, you know, because of the beef stock that we're using, because of the wine, because of the tomatoes, there's enough liquid in there that it's not going to dry out. If it happens to, you know, obviously you're going to keep an eye on it. If it happens to get a little bit dry, add a little bit more of that stock. If you don't have stock, water works too. But basically, you just want to keep an eye on it. Make sure that it gets beautifully thick without being, you know, too dried or dried out. You should be fine, but like I said, you know, you always want to keep something at the ready. Even people who've been cooking for 15, 20, 30 years need to keep an eye on it. So definitely always keep, you know, the stock by the ready just in case. So the cut of beef that we were using is a chuck roast. And, you know, but really, you know, you can use a rib roast, you can use Wagyu beef, you can use short ribs if you want. You could really use whatever you have access to. Like I said before, I like using chuck roast because it's economical, super affordable. And, you know, it's one of the easiest things to access. So you're probably going to go to any kind of butcher or supermarket that you have and have access to it. Like I mentioned, you know, if you're looking for a great beef provider, Snake River Farms is absolutely just completely next level in what they do. Highly recommend that you check out Snake River Farms. They will change your game for you. It is an incredible company. So and they have lots of options there as well.
What was in your cocktail?
So the question is, what was in my cocktail? I haven't really had much of this cocktail. I've just noticed I've talked too much. So someone in the comments is agreeing with me that I talked too much, I'm sure. And I won't take that personally. But what was in my cocktail is we've got blood oranges that we grilled to take in that beautiful grilled flavor. We have some smoked citrus halves that you can see right here. One is floating in this. Obviously the rosemary that you see. We've got a smoked simple syrup, which is a rosemary simple syrup in there as well. There's some Aperol and of course Prosecco. And we're just going to check on this pasta, and we're about 1 minute away, folks. So what I love about this too, just as an extra, this sauce in a grilled cheese sandwich will probably change your life. Or on pizza, incredible too. But in a grilled cheese sandwich, if this grilled cheese, beautiful Gruyere, Swiss, something hearty like that, aged cheddar, This is absolutely one of the best sandwiches you'd ever eat. Of course, we're going to eat it in pasta. It's going to be delicious tonight. But if you're going to have leftovers probably, so definitely don't let them go to waste for sure. But I'm a big sandwich fan, so I would definitely recommend that for sure. We're going to grab a little bowl here, and we're going to grab our pasta. So if you've ever cooked pasta before, which I'm sure most of us have, you've seen somebody pour the pasta liquid down the sink. That is the literal last thing you should do. From this day going forward, please don't do that. Pasta water is beautiful. It's full of the salt that you added for the saltiness of that water, but it's also full of starch, the starch that comes out of the pasta as well. You want to keep some of that. We're going to do that tonight because you want that to become part of the sauce. So what it's going to do is, you can see that this sauce, it is a little thick, and that's okay. I could have added a little more sauce from there, but I'm not, because what I'm going to do is add some of that pasta water to this. It's going to help to thin the sauce. It's also going to help it to beautifully coat on all of the outside of the noodles and help the whole dish really come together. It also acts as a seasoning agent because of the salted pasta water. When you salt pasta water, you want it to taste like the sea. So, often you'll see people who will put pasta in pasta water and they just put a little pinch. Put like 15 little pinches in there, like really up that. There's a lot of things, a lot of tutorials online about how to taste that. But there's a reason why when you get pasta in Italy, it tastes so absolutely incredible. Of course, it's not just the salt. There's a lot more involved, but that's one of the big things. And then, using that pasta water. So make sure that you do that. We're going to grab that pasta. It's just going to be a second. If there's a question, I'll answer it while I'm doing this. If there's not, that's super okay. I'm just going to get the pasta. So the question is, how much pasta water should you use? The answer is, get the biggest stock pot that you can and fill it with water. There is the hard thing is of course there's actual measurements, but it depends on how many people you're cooking for. It depends on how big the box is. The pasta should have enough room to move around in the water. You don't want a small little 3-quart saucepan, unless you're cooking pasta for one, of course. You want to make sure that you're using enough of the actual, enough water so that the pasta just has room to breathe. So definitely, if you're normally using just a little bit, I'd recommend, mix that up, use quite a bit more than you normally would. You're really going to notice a big difference. So we've got a bowl here. Underneath this, I apologize, I've got my back to you. That's not my intention. It's going to happen for 2 seconds. And this water is going into this bowl. Just so you know that I'm not doing the opposite of what I told you. So we've got this beautiful pasta water here. You can see that. You can actually see the starchiness of that, which I absolutely love. And we're not keeping all of it. Of course, we don't need all of it. And then we're going to go into this bowl. So we're going to go into this bowl. This is a hearty portion for 1, maybe 2. I might eat it all myself. We'll see. So we're going to go in with our beautiful sauce.
What kind of pellets did you use for the beef?
With beef, we used apple pellets a lot today for the cocktail specifically, and we're going to go in with this water. So this water, you want enough. So you see, I didn't use too much, using about 1/4 to 1/3 of a cup specifically for this dish right here. But you can see what's going to happen is this sauce is going to start to mix all through this beautiful, and I'm going to serve this right in this bowl. So I'm not even going to use tongs and switch this up. So what this is going to do is it's going to absolutely coat every single one of these noodles. It's not too saucy, it's not too thick, and as this sits, that liquid is going to work its way into everything. We tend to add either, not enough or too much sauce to dishes often, and this is a great way of doing it. You see how thick and glossy that looks? It's absolutely incredible. I highly, highly recommend it, like I said, if you've never done it before. What we're going to do to finish this beautiful pasta off is we're going to add some ricotta on top of here. We're just going to dollop this with ricotta. Ricotta is going to add an extra little bit of creaminess to this beautiful dish. Of course, Parmesan cheese. Parmigiano Reggiano. And go heavy with this. Everybody likes, oh, and there's probably some in my cocktail now. So that's the fun of cooking, isn't it? So you want to add enough of this that you like make your heart happy. Parmesan makes your heart happy. I'm saying it Parmesan now because apparently I made a joke about it. Now I can't get back to Parmigiano, but Parmesan sounds much more eloquent. Cracked pepper, beautiful. Spiciness helps with the fish. A little bit of olive oil, just a bit. Very Italian move, not something we do often here. And the last thing we want is a beautiful bit of fresh basil. So roll that up into a cigar, which is called a chiffonade, if you want to be fancy. Basically, we just roll it up into a very, very little, tight little cigar shape. And that is what I call a beautiful dinner on a Thursday night. So we've got this incredible pasta that's right here. We're gonna jump back over here and bring in this beautiful salad. Get rid of some of these things that are right here, that are in our way. And like I said, you know, we've got a lot of leftover sauce. You're good to go for your next dinner for the next couple nights. One of my favorite things about cooking, getting everything ready to go in advance. Having leftovers is fantastic. And then we've got our beautiful cocktail here. So 3 Italian dishes, Italian-inspired dishes, I should say. All of them it may seem like there's a few elements to each dish, but really they're all quick and easy to throw together. They don't really take a lot of time. There's just a few steps. But if you want to mix up Traeger night at your house, this is a fantastic way to do it. It's unique. You know, it's a little bit different, but it's not so different. You know, everybody loves pasta. Everyone loves a beautiful salad. And who's not going to love a cocktail? So it's a great way of mixing up that same old next time you have pasta night.
So we have some questions.
So we've got some questions. Yes.
Do you brine baby back ribs?
Do I brine baby back ribs? I have. But usually what I do is I dry brine them. So I'll cover them in spice and let them sit. Let them sit a lot. I love a coffee coriander spice rub. You can. The recipe's actually in my book. Beautiful, delicious, incredible on ribs. Chad Ward, as you know, is the expert on all things ribs. You know, I like to consider myself, you know, more of an expert in you know, the French cooking and Italian cooking side of things. Of course, we're all learning. None of us have arrived, and we're all on a journey. But definitely, you know, in terms of the ribs, if you have a question, I would recommend reach out to Chad and let him know. He'll guide you. He'll guide you towards deliciousness and to rib nirvana.
They just got a Traeger last week, and they want to know what's the best pizza dough recipe. You want to have pizza night.
Wow, what's the best? So the question is, you just got a Traeger last week, and you want to know what the best pizza dough recipe is. First off, I think we're all, congratulations, because that's awesome. Good for you guys. That's amazing. I know what's going to change dinner at your place. It changed dinner at mine when I got a Traeger. Now I cook everything on the Traeger. I would do that whether I cooked for a living or not. It's all I would do. I would say as far as pizza dough recipes, you know, there are pizza dough recipes on the Traeger app. I would recommend that. If I could plug myself a little bit, there's a really great recipe in my cookbook that you might want to check out. It's called Eat Delicious, 125 recipes for your daily dose of awesome, and it's available at stores. So that's a great recipe. Go in the app as well. You know, mix it up. Absolutely mix it up. Pizza is one of the funnest things that you can cook, and it is so stinking incredible on the Traeger. It's absolutely going to blow your mind.
What's your go-to recipe right now?
So the question is, what's my go-to recipe right now? Is a very hard question to answer. You know, this time of year, I love to eat as locally and as seasonally as possible. For a lot of reasons. One of the biggest ones is just that food's more delicious. You know, being on the east coast of Canada, specifically in Moncton, where I am, we are very close, about 20 minutes away, to Shediac, New Brunswick. It's the lobster capital of the world. Literally the largest lobster in the world. A lot of folks think Maine is, and the Great Lobster in Maine. But here, you know, it's where we have the World Seafood Lobster Festival. There's a statue that's the size of a house of a lobster. So I cook a lot of lobster, a lot of shellfish, a lot of oysters. You know, it's just part of our heritage here on the East Coast. So that's kind of the go-to. But of course, we're just coming out of cold season. So I'm eating a lot of food like this, like pastas, comforting stews, soups, things that make your soul happy. And the great thing is a lot of those they just require a slow cook. So you know, of course, what I'm going to say is that they can find a home on the grill, sit there for 2 or 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever it takes for that specific recipe. So I'm doing a lot of that, a lot of make your heart happy food.
Do you prefer dry rubs, marinades, or brines?
So the question is, do I prefer dry rubs, marinades, or brines? I think that it is protein specific. I think that often a dry rub is kind of my go-to for a lot of what I cook. Love marinades, huge fan of marinades, because often, you know, what you can do, you know, I love to cook a lot of international based foods, and food that I've learned on my travels, you know, with my show on Netflix, or just traveling in general, because I love it and I love to learn and eat. So you know, a lot of those foods, like different curries from India, things like that, they require that marinade time. What I love is you can take that chicken, take whatever it is, pop it into a freezer baggie in that marinade the night before, just let it sit. And then you get home from work the next day, or your shift is done, you can pop that out, dinner's ready a lot quicker, and it's taken in that flavor soak. As far as brines go, any chicken and any poultry that I cook, I brine. I brine everything, because that is the maximum way to infuse that piece of poultry or pork with flavor. And like I mentioned earlier, you know, you're spending your hard-earned money and time creating this dish. So you want to make sure it tastes as delicious as possible. So, you know, one of those 3 things, definitely specific to the recipe, I'd highly recommend. If I had to pick a favorite, I couldn't. But I would say probably I use dry brine or a dry rub the most.
Are you working on another season of Restaurants on the Edge?
So the question is, are we working on another season of Restaurants on the Edge? That's a great question. Unfortunately, right now, travel is not easy, as I don't need to tell anybody. So we'll see what happens. You know, the world is starting to open back up and become available and more easily accessed. So we'll see what happens in the future. Of course, you know, the last year has been great. I've been working on a new cookbook and doing a lot of cooking, you know, and a lot of kind of exploring my own backyard in the East Coast, which has been great. You know, but I'm also excited to tell those international, unique, you know, heartfelt stories at different restaurants all over the world, and more specifically the stories of the farmers and the fishermen and the producers and the providers and people who really help us to do this. You know, chefs really, like, we're putting things together and creating dishes. At the end of the day, the heroes are the farmers who grew these vegetables and the producers who put them together. So, you know, I love to tell their stories. I'm excited to get back and doing that. So I want to thank you guys for being part of this hour with us. I hope that you learned something. And if nothing else, I hope that you were inspired to cook something unique and delicious on your grill. Next time that you go to the Traeger, think outside the box. Think what you can do as far as cocktails go. What's that element in your favorite cocktail that you can smoke, that you can infuse with flavor, with the pasta sauce, with the salad? How can you add a warm element to really just get fun and creative in the kitchen and make it unique? I'm part of the Traeger family because I believe in this product, because it makes my food better. More than that, truthfully, I love the community that exists around Traeger grills. It's an incredible group of people that want to feed other people deliciousness and gather at a big global table. So I'm honored to be part of that. I'm honored to have spent the last hour with you guys. If you have any questions, definitely, you can feel free to ask me if you have questions about recipes. I highly recommend, if you don't have the Traeger app yet, go download the Traeger app now. Next Thursday, you have a date. Your date is with Traeger 101 Live with Chad Ward and Amanda Haas. They are going to teach you everything you need to know about your grill, equipment maintenance, how to run it best, how to operate it, how to keep it together, how to clean it, all of that good stuff. Next Thursday, make sure you tune in. And you guys are amazing. Thanks for spending this time. I hope you have a fantastic evening. I am going to go pop on with Chad right now in about 20 minutes, half an hour, on to 15 minutes actually. 50 is coming up quick, so I've got to make another cocktail. 15 minutes over on Instagram. I'm going to hop on with Chad. We're going to have more of a conversation. Maybe we'll ask him about those ribs as well. But you guys are amazing. Thanks for spending the time.